All right, welcome to lab number 4 of the AZ-700 course. In this lab, what we're going to do is create and configure a virtual network gateway. All right, and we're already here in our pre-created environment from our lab provider, and we first need to create some infrastructure. So this kind of mirrors some of the infrastructure we saw earlier on in the previous labs. Well, mainly we need to create the core services VNet and the manufacturing VNet. We use the PowerShell, Cloud Shell for that. All right, so there are some pre-created ARM files for the infrastructure. They should be available from GitHub. So I have them over here. And this is about MO2. And we want to have the Azure deploy .json as well as the parameters file. All right, so then let's create a resource group if it doesn't exist, and then a deployment. All right, that's created. So the network should be in place now. Next up, we want to create a virtual machine in the core services network. So there is a separate file to be uploaded for that. It's this one. Cool, those are uploaded. Then let's run the resource deployment. It's asking us for the administrator password. All right, that's created. And then we need another virtual machine for the manufacturing subnet. And we have yet another set of files for that. So those are uploaded. And then let's create the resources. And again, we need an administrator password. All right, so that's done. Let's take a look at what was created. So we should have 2 virtual machines now. And we do. And they seem to be in the correct locations as well. If you've done the previous labs, then you might remember there being a VNet in West Europe. This has been changed to North Europe here because of some trouble with that particular region. So the first thing that we're going to do here is connect to these VMs. So let's maybe start with the core services VM. And let's start PowerShell. Let's just see what our IP address is. Here we are, 10.20.24. And then now let's connect to our other virtual machine, the manufacturing VM. And let's start PowerShell here as well. You can see our IP address is 10.30.10.4. So let's run our testnet connection commandlet. that allows us to see whether connection would work to 10.20.24, and let's say port could be 3389 for RDP. And no real surprise here, the connection does not work, as these are two separate VNets and we haven't peered them. Okay, so let's get rid of this. And then let's go over to our virtual network and look for virtual network gateways, right? And we can create a new one here. So what we need to set up here is give it a name, right? It's going to be the core services VNet gateway. I'm going to run it in East US. It's going to be a VPN gateway. I'm going to use the VPN GW1 SKU for this to save some money. The virtual network we're going to run this in is the core services VNet. There we go. And this will automatically update the resource group as well. And the specific subnet that we're going to use is the gateway subnet. That's a special kind of subnet with that name that is always going to be used. With a public IP address, we're happy to create a new one. We're going to call it the Core Services VNet Gateway IP. We don't need active mode here, and we don't need to configure BGP. Otherwise, the defaults are okay, so let's create this. So this creation takes quite a while. So once the deployment actually starts, like now, we will actually go and take a look at our manufacturing VNet. So no, let's go for VNet. Here's our manufacturing VNet. And then if we take a look at the subnets here, we can see that this one doesn't have a gateway subnet. Okay, so we need to add one. And the purpose is virtual network gateway, and that automatically names it gateway subnet. So now the size of the IP range that we need is going to be a 27, so fairly small. Right, now that we have that subnet, now we can also add a virtual network gateway here. You can already see the previous one here, even though it's not fully deployed yet. So we can create a new one. This one's going to be the manufacturing VNet gateway. That has to be in North Europe, right? Remember, that's where the network was. It's also a VPN type. The SKU is going to be a VPN gateway 1 again. And the VNet that we want to put it into is the manufacturing VNet. All right. And then for the public IP address, we're happy with the standard. We need to name it manufacturing VNet gateway IP. And again, we don't need active mode, neither BGP here. Let's create it. All right, so at least our first virtual network gateway is already deployed. In our case, just remember we're using a VPN to connect to VNets together, and normally we wouldn't do that. We would do that using peering. But you can think that one of the VNets here would be like an on-prem environment or an office or another cloud provider's virtual network, right? So the same thing, or it works in the same way, really. All right, so finally, this is done. It took half an hour. So we can continue. And remember, we're doing a VNet to VNet VPN here. So normally we would just be doing peering to enable VNet to VNet connectivity. And the difference here is that the peering connection will go over the Azure backbone, so in a kind of a private network, whereas the VPN will go over the public internet, and thus it is encrypted. So let's configure this. We're starting with the core services, VNet gateway, and then we're adding a connection here. The type of the connection is VNet to VNet. We also have other options here. The name is going to be core services gateway to manufacturing gateway. The region is going to be East US because that's where the core services gateway is. And then we go on, oops, that was misclick. Then we go over to settings. And here we can now directly just select the virtual gateways, virtual network gateways. So the first one is the core services and the second one is the manufacturing. And then we can authenticate using a shared key. This could be anything. Let's just put in ABC123 for our purposes. We don't need to use BGP or Azure private addresses. For IKE protocol, I don't think we need to. We can just use the default option. What else? I think this is everything, right? So let's review and create. All right, that's starting there. While it's working, we can already go to the manufacturing VNet gateway and do the kind of the reverse connection here. And this VNet to VNet. This time the name is going to be manufacturing VNet. It's going to be North Europe. The first one is going to be the manufacturing VNet gateway. The second one is going to be the core services. And again, the same shared key, ABC123. Everything should be okay here. So let's just review and create that one as well. All right, those are created. So now we should be able to see our VPNs. Here are VPN connections. Currently not connected yet. All right, so We're waiting for a while now. The status here still shows unknown and not connected. But if we go to the actual connections, we can see that the first one is actually connected. As well as the second one is also connected. Great. So this means that this all of this should actually work. So now what we can do is go back to our manufacturing VM and run the same command again. And now it will connect, going over that VPN connection. All right, thanks for listening to me for this lab, and see you in the next one. Till then.